Good evening. This presentation was developed based on Unit 3 in Executive Leadership 3 and will be focused on commanding the narrative in crisis communications. This will be a summation of the ideas and the actions that should drive an executive officer in forming and communicating the narrative to the public and to the troops as we move through a difficult time or a difficult event. In our tactics classes, we focused on the fireground, but this framework argues that managing information is a core command function. As developing executives, we need to realize that our operational success is often judged not by the fire we put out, but by the story that the public hears. In this first slide, you see an image of an executive team surrounding a command board. The core of this presentation is strategic framework for executive fire officers. This isn't just about PR. It's about moving from a reactive posture to a proactive posture. Instead of just answering questions, we take more of a deliberate command structure and really control and shape the information environment. This next slide speaks to the changing news cycle and the accelerated news cycle, especially in our careers. I'm sure that you remember, and I certainly remember early in my career, when you would have a vehicle accident or a fire and you would have a news crew set up, show up to your scene. That was a big deal, but it was also, at least in my early career, pretty rare because we were very rural. Now it's not uncommon to have a citizen journalist show up, to have somebody putting you live on Facebook, live on Twitter, live on TikTok, live anywhere. And the amount of coverage is increased, the volume of coverage is increased, and that's something that we as executive officers need to understand, to adapt to, and to be proactive in, rather than try to bury our heads in the sand and hope that it's going to go away or hope that it's going to get better. It is not. As the quote at the bottom of the slide says, silence is interpreted as incompetence. You must feed the beast or the beast will eat you. And that, I think, is absolutely true in this day and age. This slide speaks to failures in communication and how the simple lack of information can form the public's opinion of what may be absolutely great actions on our part. But the fact that we have not shared with the public what occurred and how we approached it and how we tackled a difficult situation, they're left to decide for themselves what our actions were and what the value of our actions were. As it says in the text there, if the community believes the department has failed, the politic and reputational consequences are severe, regardless of tactical success on the fire ground. And I think the most important takeaway for new officers and probably new executive officers, because that's a different level of communication, a failure in communication is a failure in operations. We can't just be silent professionals. We can't expect that the public understands how great we are or how great a job we did just because the fire went out. They want to know that we did our best, or if we battled a very difficult fire and were able to communicate to them and explain to them what it was we did in those difficult circumstances to either mitigate the damage or to stop the damage from extending. That can only be to our benefit and can only help, in most cases, how the public perceives us and the job that we've done. Slide 4 talks about the 4 pillars of commanding the information that we get out to the public and commanding and shaping the message that the public receives from us. And those 4 pillars are, number 1, tactics, or how do we master the media? How do we take control of the message that we deliver? 2, command with credibility and building trust. And we're going to talk about that a lot more here in a future slide. But In short, that trust isn't built at the time of the event. It's built up by countless actions by our crews and by the organization prior to the event that may stress our relationship with the public. Three, adaptability. We have to be in front of the incident, in front of the message, and be very proactive in how we deliver that message and the information that we deliver to the public with as much transparency as we can. And then four, unity. We're going to have cities, counties, police, fire, maybe public works, and the message that we deliver needs to be unified. And when it is, that's when the public believes that we are trusting them with the best information. It's when they believe that we've acted in their best interests, and then that they can trust our actions to be above board and in a way that will benefit the community. This slide speaks to advanced planning in messaging we deliver and in our crisis communications plan. Just like we pre-plan a building and pre-plan a fire, we pre-plan things like active shooters, we can pre-plan the communications plan that goes with those incidents. And we do that by looking at it ahead of time and pre-positioning information, if you will, um, by putting together messages and ideas that can be communicated effectively to the public, by coming together as a team and developing that message at the time of the incident before stepping in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, so that we have a unified message and we have a very focused message that's delivering the information that the public wants from us and the information that is best able to communicate to the public what it is that we've done and why we've done it. The very first move that we want to make is called a holding statement. And again, that's a pre-scripted message, and that we're going to release that as quickly as we can to get the message that we want out in the community, so that that message is out there working in our behalf ahead of other messages or ideas that may get out there that could be harmful to us or could bend in a negative way the public view of what it is we've done and how we've done it. And last, we need to have a designated point of contact for the public, a point of contact for uh, our friends in the newsroom that they know they can reach out to, who is relatable to them, who's developed a good relationship with them and shared information, again, ahead of the incident, so that they have trust in what we can do and will do for them, and they have trust in the information that they're given at that time. When we talk about navigating hostile interviews, we need to understand that they are going to come. There are not always going to be softballs thrown from the press. I always remember, or try to remember, that if everything goes great and if it was just another run-of-the-mill incident, that's not a good news cycle for the people who ask questions. So they're always going to be looking for the things that will draw attention to a story and draw views to their website or views to their news station, whatever it is. They're looking for the things that they can report that are sensational and that are out of the norm. And I think we need to remember that. And there are some tactics that we can use. And I love the idea of tactics in this situation, because that's what they are. They are things that we can do that can help us stay on message and on brand, that can help us maintain our composure even when there's difficult questions, multiple difficult questions coming, or maybe when we're trying to present a message when we haven't done our best job, or when we may have made some mistakes. And those certainly happen in our profession, but it's hard for us to present that sometimes to the public and especially to the press. So the first tactic is bridging, and that's using a difficult question to pivot your message back to what's going to be on brand and what's going to lead you in a positive direction. And the example here is, I understand the concern about the timeline, but what's important is our crews prioritize the rescue of 3 trapped residents. And I think that's something we can practice. I think it's important that our officers do practice those things and learn those techniques. The other one is the rule of 3, to memorize 3 core messages or core ideas that we're looking to emphasize when we go into an interview, especially into a press conference, so that we have a core that we can keep coming back to, that can help us redirect the line of questioning or our answer and can help us stay on message and on brand. And the last one is silence or no comment is in the mind of the public and in the mind of the press, especially an admission of guilt. It's just you saying, I don't want to talk about it because it was bad and I don't think you're going to like it. Building trust that we can lean on during a crisis is probably one of the most critical things that we do as an organization. And as it says here, trust is accumulated in drops and lost in buckets. It takes a long time to build it, and we have to continually work to refill that bucket. But if we knock the bucket over, we've knocked it over, and that trust is gone in a heartbeat. I think that pretty much every organization in the Phoenix area does an incredible job of building that trust, and we do it on fall injuries and vehicle accidents and in the grocery store, and when we open the door for people, and when we help them move something at their house, when we're there for another call, and our crews do a great job of that. And that is to our benefit when we have a critical incident, when we have a critical event, that we're going to need that trust from the public as we ask them to do things, or we ask them to trust us in how we're going to handle that incident. The slide here talks about the CDC CIRC model on trust. And CIRC is the Crisis and Emergency Risk Communication Program that the CDC has developed for use during high-stress events. And I guess if there's anybody who knows about high-stress events, that would be the CDC. And, of course, the primary component of that is empathy. We have to express that empathy early and often, but we need to acknowledge the public's fear and acknowledge that they're having a hard time, that this is a terrifying event or events, and that helps the public accept that a little bit, and then that opens the door for them to start listening to us. And then after that, accountability is going to be in our actions. And again, that accountability leans on our integrity, and the integrity leans on the trust that the public has for us. Even if we've made mistakes, we need to disclose those mistakes and how we're going to take care of that mistake and get everything heading in the right direction again, and how we're going to recover from the mistakes we may have made. What we don't want under any circumstances is to know that a mistake has occurred and to allow the media to uncover that and expose it without us having proactively addressed it. Again, as we've discussed earlier, you cannot build the trust during the event, during the disaster. That has to be built before, and it's built over and over, day to day, by the actions of our crews and the organization. Community risk reduction is I think, a primary part of that, and that's a way that we help the public understand that they can trust us. They begin to understand the things that we do for them and the ways in which we work to make the public safer, to make the community safer, to reduce the number of events. When we get out into homes and we do safety surveys, and we get out into schools and we teach stop, drop, and roll, and we get out in the community and we get pamphlets out and information out, and we do CPR trainings, and there's a number of ways we do that, that we build that trust. When the event does come and we have a disaster, we need to correct misinformation, we need to get good information out, and we need to have unified sources of truth and unified messaging coming from the entire city, the entire county, the entire response team. The last thing is optimism bias. The public always wants to think that everything's going to go great, that it won't happen to them, that it won't be as bad for them, and we need to be very direct and with empathy need to be um, very honest in what's going to occur and when and where it's going to occur, so that the public again can trust us, trust our information, and they're not counting on information or things that are not going to happen or will be far worse than they're thinking. Pillar three is ensuring that our communications and our messaging outpaces the incident. And we do that by being very adaptive in our communication styles and tools. The slide here alludes to the four phases of messaging or communications during the event. The one is our community risk reduction. It's what we do before the event and what kind of education we deliver, or even if we know something's coming, that we get a good solid message out to the public and let them know what's coming, when it's coming, and what they can do to help themselves and what we are going to do to help them. And then phase two is during the event in the critical early stages. And our goals are going to be life safety, and we're going to be proactive and pushing messages out. We're going to do that by every means we have, whether that's TV, radio, uh, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and how we do that and what we do is going to be dependent on, to some extent, on our demographics and what ways, what means of communication are going to be most effective for the different demographic groups that we have within our response area. Phase three is going to be over the long haul. It's going to be during the recovery phase. During the longer haul, during the event, after the first critical push, but while we're still in the midst of it. And what we're looking to do then is informing and explaining why things are happening and what's happening and what the result is going to be for the public. We're looking to stabilize uh, messaging and stabilize things for the public and help them begin to understand how things are going to look over the longer haul. And we do that through press briefings, we do it through daily updates, community meetings, and how and what we do is going to, again, depend on the demographics, depend on the event, the location, etc. And then last is when we're trying to transition back to normalcy or transitioning to the long-term recovery if it's something like Katrina or the hurricanes in New Jersey. And then it's going to be about informing about resources, locations of resources, how we're going to transition the plan from maybe a type 3 team back over to local resources, or how we're going to transition from a FEMA response back to a local response and local assistance. And what we want to make sure we don't have happen is for the public to feel abandoned or feel like they don't have the communication and the information that they need. And the way that's going to occur is if we just abruptly discontinue the communications, especially discontinuing communications without notice. We're just going to pretty briefly cover this slide, and this is lessons from previous events and how we can learn from them and improve what we do. And the two examples are the Marshall Fire from Colorado and the Camp Fire from California. And in the Marshall Fire, uh, approval for alerts, approval for messaging was very, very centralized and very controlled, which resulted in good messages that never got anywhere and didn't get anywhere in a timely manner. And the lesson here is that messaging's got to be consistent but decentralized. We have to push that messaging out and inform our commanders and help them understand the messaging that we're putting out so that they can deliver that message more effectively, more locally, and then more quickly, which will help the people who are being affected. And then in the Camp Fire from California, they were relying completely on technology and on cell towers to deliver messaging, and all the cell towers burnt and went down, and so did their messaging ability. Because they didn't have any backup, They didn't have any other ways of communicating. They hadn't developed any ways, and then they had to scramble and try and recover from that. And one of the axioms that I love in preparedness is two is one, one is none. We have to have backups. We have to have considered failure before we start, and we have to have considered and developed a what if plan for that and determine how we're going to respond in those events so that we can be very effective even when our initial plan doesn't go as planned. I feel a little bit like I've beat this message to death in here, but I don't know that we can beat this to death, and that's the idea of a unified voice, a unified messaging, and a unified response from all aspects of the response agencies, or all response agencies. If we fracture the messaging, if we have competing messages, and the example here is fire orders evacuation and the police orders shelter in place. Obviously, that's going to create differences. It's going to create confusion among the public, and then it's going to create injuries and bad outcomes that we never want to have. So Joint Information Center is going to be, especially in a bigger event, a JIC will assist that. Joint Information System, one common coordinated message and one common method of delivering those messages, even if it's over a host of delivery avenues, it's still an information system and not a fractured response in terms of messaging. And if we have a joint information center, we get more minds on the idea and more people with good ideas to develop a single unified message. I think sometimes this is underserved because we underserve it day to day. And then when we really need that, we need the understanding, the training, the experience we may not have in our organizations because we haven't taken the time to develop the understanding and the expertise prior to the event. Unity, unity in our leadership, unity in our actions and our messaging is a practice. And it's a practice that I think in the fire service we're not always great at. I think we can be, and occasionally we are, but I think that you see it done far more effectively, for instance, in the wildland world. They have really good unity in leadership and in tactics development and in messaging because everybody comes together once a work cycle to communicate the same message, to get the messaging in, messaging out, and to talk about how we're going to move forward. The command meeting ritual, again, is something I think we can be better at in the fire service. Sometimes it's practiced, but not always. And I think that our leaders would benefit from that, especially our new leaders. They could learn, listen to more experienced commanders and listen to how they think and what they're thinking. And this would help with our development. Process transparency is critical. It's critical in building trust and maintaining that trust. And it's critical in helping the public understand that even when we may not have solved the event yet, or we may have even had a misstep, that we're being honest with them in where we are and what we've done, but we're also being honest in how we're moving forward and letting them know where things stand. And last, our internal transparency, communicating with our own personnel, letting them know where we're at, what we're doing, and how we're moving forward, builds unity in the organization. It builds happiness amongst the crews. They'd rather know what we're doing, even if where we're at's not the best place. But if we know where we're at and we know where we're going, then we can all come together and do that. But when there's fractured understanding, or when there's a group on high that's making decisions but not telling anybody else what they are or how we're going to get there, then that builds a fractured organization, which will kill morale faster than anything. The title of this slide is Decisiveness in the Fog, the 80% Solution. And what that speaks to is the fact that we're not always able to make decisions or to act with 100% of the information we want to have, or with absolutely accurate information. We're often faced with incomplete information. We're often faced with having to make decisions, and we're just not going to get what we want when we want it in order to do that perfectly. And on the fire ground, we do that very, very well with naturalistic decision making, with relying on our experience, relying on patterns of action, what we've seen before, and what worked in similar circumstances. And that serves us well. And we can do the same things with communication. It, as the slide says here, it's better to release a warning that's 80% accurate now rather than a 100% accurate warning an hour too late. And sometimes our inability to have 100% of the information right now freezes us and stops us from releasing a lot of really good information. And we need to overcome that. We need to get out to the public what we can with transparency, helping them understand that this is the information we have. We're working to get more, but what we were able to tell you with certainty right now is this, and here's the best information we can give you with that in mind. And last, the slide refers to not just an incident commander, but also the information commander. And we're responsible for directing communication strategies and doing that with the same understanding, the same decisiveness, and the same authority that we apply to fireground operations. Okay, this is the last in the wrap-up slide, and it's a summary. The 4 pillars of executive responsibility are tactics, and we bring those tactics into the event, and we apply them early and with as much authority and information as we can deliver during that first hour. But that helps us establish our trust with the community and establish their trust in our actions, and that we are doing the right things, trying to do the right things, and trying to be as effective as we can with what we have. Second, trust. And that trust is built ahead of the event. And we lead with empathy in that, in helping the public understand that we sympathize with them, and we know that this is a difficult time, but they still need to hear the information we're trying to deliver to them. Third, adaptability. Need to match our tools, match our information, and match our delivery mechanisms with the incident's life cycle, and we need to be adaptive within that. If our first method of delivery or attack goes wrong, we need to have considered a backup prior to the incident, and we need to adapt as quickly and effectively as we can within the incident. And last, unity. Align our command, speak with a single voice, deliver a unified message, and push that message down to all of our officers so that we're all speaking with one voice and delivering one message to the public or with whomever we communicate with, interact with during the event. And as we're able to do this, to educate our officers and our command staff to this, as we're able to deliver unified messaging and effective messaging to the public, that helps our department not only survive a crisis, but thrive during the crisis and continue to build trust with the community as we very effectively manage these crises and emerge from the other side stronger and with a better relationship with our community.